never done a live from my phone, so we'll see how that goes. If this angle turns out to be a little wacky, let me know and I can adjust things. Let me just go ahead and ping everybody on Discord real quick to make sure that everybody knows what's going on. So basically, what we're doing today is I am going to be cleaning off some of the fossils we got from our Hell Creek dig last week, which was flipping awesome, by the way. It was so incredibly fun. And some of those include cope material that had not been previously collected, which is pretty exciting, I would say. Okay, looking at the okay, I think I do need to change my aspect ratio. It looks like the orientation was a little weird there. Okay, is that better? That looks like it's probably better. Yeah, now you're not sideways. Okay, everybody's. Oh no, I accidentally just sent a link to my Google Drive to the Discord. Let's not do that. And let's try this again. Boom, there we go. Okay. Awesome. Now we're live. Okay. Let's go ahead and check out the comments first. Well, that's a lot of comments already. Sheesh, we got 27 people. Hello, father. Hello, son. What's up? Hello, Mr. Goat. W Stream, how you doing? I'm doing great. Apex Cretaceous. Can you show this, Rex? I do have the PNSO Spino. It's right here. I got it for, I think it was Christmas a couple years ago. Is it not beautiful? I certainly think it is. And I also got this from one of my coworkers when I worked at the university. He 3D printed it for me. Did you stop the alien invasion with Overseer and Madley yet? Not yet. We're actually running into a bit of a snafu in that the first episode did really badly. So if you want more episodes of the Kawashni trilogy and the Hybrids versus Alien series, please share that video and watch it as many times as you can. How exactly do you tell the difference between a fossil and a rock? So rocks include fossils. Fossils are typically made out of rock. One way... okay, well, this one is not a very good example of... because this is basically just a piece off of the bone surface. But I'll show you some of the microstructures that you can check for when looking for fossils when we get to some of the other ones. What is that fossil? I'm glad you asked, Tyrannosaurus. This is actually a negative from Cope's femur. It's from one of the sections, it's from one of the proximal sections of the femur, so pretty close to the femoral head. And you can see how much of a curve that it had up there. So at that point, it would have been, you know, absolutely ridiculously massive. Giant femur. We found this at the dig site when we were there on, when was that, Tuesday? Yeah, Tuesday of last week. And so I just wanted to kind of chat, chill with everybody, show a little bit of fossil cleaning work, get some of the dirt and grime and stuff off of this. And just hang out. Because I did have another video that I was working on this morning about Edmontosaurus, but I was like, you know what, I really need to clean this cope stuff because it's all muddy and I won't be able to get a proper scan of the vert chunks until I've cleaned it off. So why not multitask, right? Fortunately, it looks like this side of the bone surface is actually really clean. That's good. It had been a tailings pile for probably about 15 years. No, like 18 years, because they found the femur in like 2007. They didn't find the femur until a lot later. Join the cult of Carling. Do you have the Eofauna Atlasaurus? I'd love to have it, but I unfortunately don't. So why is this on shorts? I have no idea. It might be because I'm filming it from my phone. Primal's coming back. I still have to watch the first 2 seasons. Can dogs survive in the Mesozoic? I'd say so. They're pretty adaptable. What pieces? Yeah, this is cope femur. You like Spinosaurus? I love Spinosaurus. Yeah, femur impression. Yes. And yes, this is actually from cope. We've got some more pieces from cope that we're going to be cleaning off here in a few minutes. I just got to get the dirt off of this one first because it's a little grimy on this side. Oh yeah, that is mud coming off of there now. Of course, this side is just iron concretion. There's no actual bone on the part that I'm cleaning, but I'm mainly just cleaning this side to make me feel better. Howdy, Vividen. Good to see you live. I imagine the Black Hills Institute was a blast for you. It was. It was incredible. Pete went ahead and gave us a private tour of basically the entire collections. It was awesome, and they have, wow, they've got a ton of really cool stuff there that they're planning on publishing on in the next couple years that I don't think I'm allowed to talk about. I was able to grab measurements of a really big Rex femur that they had back there named Jess Rex. And in some measurements, actually, in length anyway, it was between Stan and Sue. It's pretty big. Between the greater trochanter to the lateral condyle, it was 1322, something around there. I have the measurements written down, but it was big. It was almost as long as Sue's femur, probably about comparable to Scotty's. There's also a tibia there, and they have pretty much the whole foot, so you can expect some stuff from that. I did take pictures of it and measured it with Pete. We measured it together just to make sure that we were doing it accurately using the same measurement standards and everything. And it's big. It is a large, very large femur, which is pretty cool. So it's probably like, probably about a 10-ton animal, maybe larger, depending on, because the tibia was pretty busted up. It was in a bunch of different chunks. So that is going to be a lot more difficult to calculate size from. But yeah, that's pretty cool. That specimen's name is Jess. And fun fact, actually, I was the first person to ever measure it. They hadn't taken measurements of it yet, so they didn't quite know how big it was, which is pretty cool. There's also another super giant Rex there that some of the material is on display, actually. It's called Foxy Lady. It's probably about Scotty size, based on comparisons with its material and some other stuff. There's skull material, and I think he said there was some postcranial. But yeah, he described it as being in between Stan and Cope in size, which is pretty cool. Okay, I think this this femur impression is a lot cleaner. You can see all the mud that came off of it onto my hands too. So we can let it dry there. Let's look at comments for a second. Is the height of a T-Rex like Sue the same as its hind limb length? I'm trying to interpret that question. If I understand it correctly, you're asking if you took the length of all of the limb bones and put them together, if that's actually how tall it was. The answer would be no, because we'd have to account for cartilage. And also the hip height is, I think hip height's probably the best way to figure out most theropod height, at least for Tyrannosaurus, just with their proportions. Some measure it to the head, but that's a variable position. Hip height is typically a lot more consistent. So I think hip height is the way to go, but you do have to account for cartilage. Thomas Schellenberg is asking, what's your favorite Carcharodontosaurid? Oh man, that's hard. I think Tyrannotitan has the coolest name, easily. I've worked the most with Giga, just with like all the scans and stuff, so I'm a little bit more familiar with that. Carcharodontosaurus was actually my favorite dinosaur when I was about 6, because I was a 6-year-old and I was like, oh, it's bigger than T-Rex? That's cool. And then 6 months later I found out, no, it's not bigger than T-Rex, and then it wasn't my favorite anymore, because that's how I operate. I'm a child. And sometimes that's okay. So somebody was asking earlier about how to tell a fossil from a rock. This is a piece of one of Cope's verts. We're not sure which one. it's pretty badly chunked up and damaged, and it's also covered in dirt. But you can see how it kind of looks like popcorn or like honeycomb on the inside. That's a pretty darn good indication that you've got bone going on, where you can see like it's got the small chambers that would have held air sacs in life, which I think is pretty cool. Yeah, so this is from the vert stack. It just got left behind at the dig because that's a lot of logistics you have to manage. So we're gonna be cleaning this off. Hey Vividen, could Spinosaurus rear up, or is it just for art? I don't know if it could. I don't know that it couldn't. I would say that the biomechanics of Spinosaurus are so hotly debated that I'm not really confident in saying anything about it other than it could stand up. It had legs. It could probably swim at least a little bit. I'm not really on the team that says it couldn't swim at all. I don't think that really makes any sense. But it wouldn't surprise me if it was able to use its tail as a counterbalance and rear up at least a little bit. That just seems like a pretty basic biomechanical function for something that's that low to the ground. Oh yeah, there's lots of mud on this. I tried to clean it off in the hotel bathroom and ended up plugging the bathroom because there's so much mud and gunk on it. So I decided to wait to clean it off until I could get home and do it properly and have you guys be part of the experience. So my goal, ooh, yeah, look at that. That's nice. That's nice bone right there. The black cracks, you can see that there. That's really nice. Honestly, maybe I should do this after every dig, just kind of make it like a Bob Ross type deal. I think that'd be pretty fun. Sitting and cleaning off fossils, almost like an ASMR. Okay, let's look at the... if you scan the femur impression, we can try comparing it to Sue's. Yeah, that's a good idea. I actually did scan the femur impression. I think I already sent it to you. What's your thought on Goji Sender's Hybrid War? I think it's really fun. It's awesome. And that's what inspired the Kawashni trilogy, so I think it's cool. I don't think I've watched the most recent video from the Hybrid War, though, so I'm a little bit behind. I have been I have been extremely busy between the book launch for Obsidian Dawn and going to California on vacation, checking out La Brea, which was an amazing museum, by the way. Oh no, we got some roots in there. Dang, that sucks. Roots are the worst because they always eat the fossils. And they're really common in Hell Creek, too. They like digging into this stuff, into the mudstone, because it's really nutritious. So if we can get rid of those, that would be great. It would just cause problems. When's the Gomez fossil cleaning live stream? You know, that's a great question. A Gomez fossil cleaning live stream probably wouldn't last very long, considering it's half of a caudal vert. That'd be funny though. It'd be really funny. Oh yeah, we're getting lots of mud off of this. This is awesome. Probably should have grabbed more paper towels, honestly. Might need to refresh my water tray at some point also. No, you're not late. Oh, you're cleaning some Phytosaur fossils? That's amazing. I love Phytosaurs. The vert chunks will probably be a struggle. Yes. Yes, they will. I don't even know what part of the spinal column series these belong to. They're so badly damaged. Have you heard of Ingentia? Yeah, I have heard of Ingentia. It's awesome. What's up? How's it going? By the way, did you check out Rain World yet? I haven't yet. I just downloaded Monster Hunter World to try and try and record some footage for some survival videos in that. I'm trying to decide if I want to do paleo accurate stuff in Monster Hunter, because a lot of people pointed out in the comments of that poll I did a couple weeks ago that it would not be remotely balanced at all, since they are in fact monsters and they don't behave like animals and they don't have limitations of real animals. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of work. especially considering how many more animals per biome there are that I'd have to do art for in Monster Hunter World than there are for Subnautica. Because I've got art that I made of pretty much, probably like 95% of the Subnautica stuff, so I can just crank those out a lot faster now. I'm probably going to do giant squids next. I think that would be really, really fun. I've been wanting to do a squid video for a while, and I think that's a great opportunity. I might do a Triassic Kraken thing at some point, kind of going over the myth of the Triassic Kraken and why the dude thought it was real and why it didn't make any sense. I think that would be fun. Can they, or already are, 3D printing whole skeleton copies for display in museums? Yes. Yes, actually. Some people are. BHI was doing it when I was there. They just got a brand new 3D printer that's like crazy detailed and can print giant bones. It's awesome. What are your thoughts on animal I have become by 3 days grace being the theme of Spinosaurus? I think it makes perfect sense. From Mordred Kane, what type of fossil are you cleaning? This is a chunked up fragmentary Tyrannosaurus vert. I don't know what part of the spinal column it's from, as we were just talking about, because it is so horrifically damaged. But hopefully, once we get it cleaned up and rescanned, we'll be able to more accurately look at the structure of it, potentially get some microstructure comparisons. If any of you have any thoughts, please let me know. Because it's looking pretty fun. Are you bringing in more paper towels and water? Oh, thank you. That would be wonderful. My wife just came to the office door and is bringing in more materials. So ignore the creaky door. Sorry about that. Thank you, love. Well, that's a lot of paper towels. Yeah, we're talking. Okay. Did I say some more? Okay, let me get caught up on the comments, and I'm gonna use some of these paper towels and clean my hands off for a second. Man, this Hell Creek mud is persistent stuff. Tyrannotherium asks, I wonder if they're going to find a skull and skeleton of Cope. So, fun fact, we actually already have quite a few of the skull bones. I shared images of them, I think a few days ago, because I just got them from Bucky when I was out there. And they have several of the verts preserved. They've got the tibia, the fibula, the pelvis, although the pelvis was bitten in half, so its scientific use might not be incredible. Yeah, Cope was cannibalized, for those of you who don't know, so let the implications of that sink in. If it's not truly horrifying, I don't know what is. Although, to be fair, we don't know what killed Cope. We don't know if it was another bigger Rex, or if it died of old age, because it was about 30 years old, which is pretty darn old for a Rex. It's one of the oldest we have, possibly the oldest, depending on which histology study you are referencing at the time. So it could have been just died of old age or died of disease or something, and then was cannibalized by the Rexes. But either way, pretty metal. Okay, I think this is about as clean as we're going to get it this round. So I'm going to stick that there. And let's dry it off. Been a while since we cut a live stream. Welcome, welcome, Fat Joe. It's always good to have you. If dragons were real, what clay do you think they would belong to? I don't think they would be monophyletic, honestly. I think dragon would be more of a term used to describe convergent body plan. Oh, I'm going to be really careful with this one. It looks like it's trying to break in the middle. And that would not be good. I don't want that to happen. Yeah, right there. You see that? That fracture plane right there. Man, Man, I need some Paleobond. I need some Vinac. This stuff is not in good shape. It was laying exposed for close to 20 years out in the South Dakota Badlands at the Cope site. So I'm glad we found it when you did, or there would have been nothing left. Would Goliath be considered a trustworthy specimen since it is just a femur, which is one of the better fossils for size? I think femur is probably the best fossil for size. That being said, you never know. I would definitely consider Cope a better specimen than Goliath, for example. Hey, Vividen. Oh, wait, I already answered that question. Hey, Spider Dragon, what's up? How's it going? 1322 is 1 centimeter longer than Stan. Is that greater trochantered lateral condyle? You know what? Let me check my notes. I think I've got it in my field notebook right here. Also, this isn't sponsored, but I definitely recommend getting the Right in the Rain all-weather geological number 540F. This is what I got from a paleontology class in undergrad, and it's awesome. It's basically waterproof, which is great. Okay, so Jess, yeah, greater trochanter to lateral condyle was 132. Femoral head to medial condyle was 134. So Dino W, if you can crunch the numbers on that while we're cleaning this stuff, that'd be awesome. And we can try and figure it out. Can cats survive in the Mesozoic, and can T-Rex survive in the Ice Age? I would say yes to both. Cats are very adaptable. Oh yeah, here's some more Cope stuff. Don't know what it's from. Don't know what part of the bone it is. It might be limb bone, because it doesn't look like it has air sacs in it. That might be able to give you a little bit more of an idea of how large this is, if that's the curvature. But you can see how the microstructure, the lamellar fibers, are a lot more straight in this one. So if you see how they're kind of going up, that makes me think it's limb bone, but I'm not really sure. Let's get some more water in the cleaning bucket. Get some of the dirt off of this guy. How big do you think a terrestrial ape could get maximum? That's a good question. I think biomechanically they could probably get bigger than gorillas. I don't really see why not. Not unreasonably large, though. The problem with apes, well, the problem with fossil apes, anyway, is that they're very vulnerable to diet-based changes. Like Gigantopithecus probably went extinct because of subtle climatic changes that changed the plant life that were available in the area. And so switching up the diet, even just by a couple of species of grass, or kind of I don't remember if it was eating bamboo. It's been a while since I've read that study. But it basically concluded that a small change in the diet ended up driving the entire species extinct, which is crazy. So you can't get too big, because that's not sustainable when you have such a specialized diet that is so subject to localized change. You need a lot of food when you're a mammal that's that size, because metabolically, your demands are extremely high. Hopefully that answers your question. Like 2 centimeters shorter than Sue, though. Yeah, because Sue, femoral head, she's like what? 137, like 1366 or something. Sue's big. Sue's real big. Thoughts on Siamosaurus? I'm pretty sad to see it's being considered a nomen dubium since it's the Trudon situation all over again. I'm actually not very familiar with the Siamosaurus situation. Do you mind enlightening us on that? Hey, Vividen, what you got there? We got coat bones. Me personally, I think dragons would be birds that split off from aves that kept their snouts unlike aves. Interesting. So they'd be paravians? Would they be maniraptorans? 0 out of 10. Next video should be definitive proof that Gomez is the biggest theropod. You know what? I agree. What happened to your server? It got nuked because people had beef with other people for stupid internet reasons that I never really quite understood. So, yeah. Basically, they took over the server and deleted everything, which is tragic. Hi there, you're working on cope right now. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Hip height includes ilium height. Yes, yes, it does. That's another reason why the hind limbs are different. Acrocanthosaurus and Tyrannotitan are pretty much tied for my favorite Carcharodontosaur. You know what? Actually, I changed my answer. It's acro. It's definitely acro. I love Acrocanthosaurus. November 11th is Acrocanthosaurus Appreciation Day. Remember that. I started that tradition in 2020 when I got back from my mission. And I've celebrated it in some way ever since. So I invite you to celebrate Acrocanthosaurus Appreciation Day this November 11th with your loved ones or your hated ones, whoever likes Acrocanthosaurus. Man, I wish we knew what these bone chunks were. Getting scans to the team should help. You might be able to see some microstructure stuff that I'm not looking at clearly right now. Because that's really nice, clear bone surface right there. You can see how it almost looks pixelated because of all the blood vessels that are in there. It's heavily vascularized. Favorite Abelisaur? I'm basic. I'm gonna go with Carnotaurus. I grew up watching Disney's Dinosaur, and I absolutely love that movie still. It's so fun. I actually think it's a better movie than Land Before Time. Exact same story, basically, but I think it's a better version of it, which might be a hot take. I don't know. Okay, looks like that's starting to go under a little bit too much water pressure. If you could feel a little bit, it's flaking off, so I'm going to give that one a break. Oh, that's actually not bad. The other vert chunks were way worse, lol. This is actually one of the same vert chunks that I scanned to you. It's just looking a lot nicer now that it's cleaned up. Hey, I'm talking to you about can cats survive the Mesozoic and can T-Rex survive the Ice Age? I think I already answered that. We both have the same Spinosaurus figure. Nice. I also have the Jurassic Park 3 Spinosaurus one. I got that one on my mission for my birthday as well. My parents sent it to me. Let me grab that real quick. Check it out. He's got a little scarf for Christmas. He's had that for like 5 years. So he can join the watch party. Just for fun. Also, I think this is the most people I've ever had attend a live stream. This is awesome. Especially since I didn't plan it. It's kind of improvised. Cassave, no way Vividen live stream. Yeah. We might actually be able to identify that vert chunk roughly with the scan. Oh, gee, I hope so. Oh, gee. Yeah, that'd be awesome. I'm gonna go ahead and add another paper towel layer because dang. Yeah, that's a lot of water. New study: Spinosaurus found to be legless. Yeah, pretty much tadpole. Hey, Goji guy, what's up? It's good to have you. We need to do some more collabs together. That live stream we did with the three of us was way fun. Okay, here's another big cope vert chunk. You can see there's some kind of bony process, just like there was in the other one, but it's so damaged that I'm not sure where it even goes. And you can see there's a little bit of that iron concretion still on top, which made prep work for cope an absolute nightmare, from what I understand. There's a reason that it didn't even go to the Children's Museum of Indianapolis until 5 years after it was dug up. I honestly think that the Spinosaurus situation is getting kind of blown out of proportion. Yeah, I think we definitely know more about Spinosaurus than the memes say. But I must admit, they're still funny. I do get a kick out of that. Let's try some Q-tips. Okay, I think the next time that I go to the store, I need to invest in some dental picks. Because I wasn't expecting to actually come back with more cope material. But we were very pleasantly surprised. Yeah, Q-tips are not doing it there. We're just gonna have to brush it. Yeah, I definitely need to buy some dental picks. Those were like the most useful tool apart from air scribes when I was working at the BYU Paleontology Museum last year. Dental pick supremacy. do you think a hypothetical largest Acrocanthosaurus would be larger than an average Giga? I certainly think it's possible. We do have a lot more Acrocanthosaurus specimens right now than we do Giga specimens. Since we have, what, 4 acros? And then Fran, who's the biggest one by a pretty decent margin, was calculated at, with Dempsey's new soft tissue levels, at like 7.5 tons for the sailback model, which is pretty big. That's a lot bigger than we were thinking with just minimum soft tissue. That wasn't based off of extant relatives. So it's hard to say. If by hypothetical maximum you mean like the biggest acro ever of all time would be larger than an average Giga, I'd say that's very possible, even probable. The problem is that we have no idea what an average Giga is. We have one good specimen. So, yeah. Oh, my lamp just went out. That's awkward. Oh well, you can probably still see decently, I hope. I'm turning that back on. There we go. That was weird. I don't know why it just turned off. Anyway. Yeah, this is another covert chunk. What type of dinosaur would you like to discover / describe, and what would you name it? I'd like to name a Titanosaurian sauropod similar to Protosaurus. That would be so cool. I'm a huge nerd, as many of you probably already knew. So I'd love to discover some kind of crazy big Tyrannosaur or Megaraptoran, and I'd name it Morgoth, after the main antagonist of the Silmarillion, which is a prequel to The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. Morgoth is basically Sauron on steroids. I don't think he's as smart, but he is far more powerful. So yeah, I think that would be really awesome. Dino ASMR, that's my wife. The joy of fossil cleaning. Oh, that's true. This is so satisfying, actually. I really should do this more often. I'm enjoying it a lot. And apparently you all are too. This is, yeah, 20 minutes ago, it was the biggest live stream I've ever had, and now it's bigger than that. So, new record. That's awesome. That's what I get when the internet is actually working, because I tried to do that live stream for the 100,000 subs celebration, and internet gave out like twice, so that didn't work at all. But this is working way better, and I'm very happy about that. Turns out I just needed to get a Starlink cable that was 50 feet longer, and then dig a 100-foot trench and bury it, and then that worked. Thoughts on Goji Center's top 16 hybrid war? I think it's awesome. I still need to update myself on the newest videos. Maybe I should use the spray bottle on this. There's just a lot of mud here. Oh yeah, look at that. Look at that come off the, there we go. Oh, that's nice. That is awesome. I'm using so much water. That is okay, because that's what it's for, is cleaning fossils. Why else would we have water? I don't know. Okay. Do you have a favorite sauropod? Right now, it's between Alamosaurus and Shunosaurus. Also Amargasaurus and Bahatosaurus. I think they're all amazing. Alamosaurus because it's a Maastrichtian titanosaur in North America, which I think is really cool, and it also has osteoderms, which is really cool, objectively. Shunosaurus because it has a tail club, and a sauropod with a tail club is just a horrifying idea, which I love. Also, it's small. Shunosaurus is not a big sauropod at all. Oh, I gotta be really careful here. Bone surface is really, really bad. Oh, I hope that wasn't a piece of fossil. I hope that was just mud. We're just gonna say it's mud because it makes me feel better. okay, we're making progress. Some of the mud's coming off here, which is awesome. Just don't want to erode any more of the bone surface than I absolutely have to. In your opinion, which is the best Tyrannosaurus Rex behavior in terms of documentaries? This is basic, but Prehistoric Planet, I think, just knocked it out of the park. There were a couple issues that I had. I think they exaggerated the danger that Quetzalcoatlus would be able to pose biomechanically to a Rex, especially like pecking stuff while flying was a little unrealistic. But I love that they depicted it as an animal. You know, it wasn't just always on the hunt. It wasn't always trying to kill things just for the sake of violence, because that's not how a lot of animals work. Some animals do work like that, to be fair. But I don't think T-Rex was necessarily one of them. They're probably a lot more complex than popular culture gives them credit for. And I think they did a pretty good job of depicting that. Okay, yeah, this is a spray bottle situation for sure. Oh, yeah, look at that. Oh, that's so much better. This is great. Thank you for suggesting using the spray bottle, Bree. This is awesome. You can see so much more of the bone surface. Look at that. That's a huge improvement. If you could bring back one megatheropod, which one would it be? Oh, I think you know the answer. It's the most irresponsible answer, but Rex, because I love it. I was talking about this with Bucky, actually, when we were out in South Dakota the other week, and he was like, yeah, I'd give my left arm to bring T-Rex back. And I was like, yeah, me too. It could eat my left arm as an offering if it needed it. Rex just pulling a Galadriel. I do not desire. I do not deny that my heart has greatly desired this. Gotta find a better place for this, because that is dirty water. There we go. That's good. Yeah, I've never done a live stream from my phone before, so I was hoping that I'd be able to like give it a title and stuff, but it just went live. So I'm gonna change it to like cleaning fossils and chill or something. It's really going pretty well. This is looking way better than it was at the hotel bathroom. Sheesh. Okay, good. Getting some mud chunks off there. That's good. Let's go ahead and change angles. For those who are just arriving, this is a part of a vertebral chunk from Cope, the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Have you checked out Primitive War yet? I haven't. It wasn't playing in any of the theaters near us. I'm extremely jealous. I wish I was doing this. Boo, plants. Agreed, T-Rex. Vividen, come to my spreadsheets. I'll run the toothbrush for a bit. Okay. Also, when is the Hell Creek survival video going to come out? Which one? I've had lots of Hell Creek adjacent survival videos. Are you talking about the like how humans could survive it? I don't know if I'm ever going to continue that series because the Morris information one totally bombed. It did so badly that I don't think I could ever really justify spending the time and energy to do the research on that, because the research is very intense and nobody really watched it. So I don't think I could ever do another one, which made me really sad because I had a lot of fun making it. Where did you acquire the fossil? We got this actually at the Cope site. We found it along with various other chunks. And it was at the Cope site where we found Blister as well, the Edmontosaurus tail. It's like the first 34-ish caudals, estimating based off of the average caudals width that were exposed. And it was articulated, which is pretty awesome. It was in a lower horizon than Cope, so it wasn't like Cope's last meal or anything. It had probably been dead for thousands or tens of thousands of years before Cope was ever born. But dang, it was cool. It was also in an iron concretion pretty similar to this, which makes prep work a nightmare. It also makes digging it out a nightmare. Because we were trying to get that thing out of the ground with screwdrivers, pickaxes, shovels, and good old-fashioned gumption. The gumption was the most important part. Okay, I think it's time for another spray bottle treatment. You're lucky, Cope. You're at a spa right now. It's probably the cleanest you've been in 66 million years. Oh yeah, that's starting to look a lot better. Is that a real fossil or some kind of toy? This is real. This is real. And this is real. And these are all cope fragments, which is, I think, the T-Rex that has the biggest chance at being larger than Sue that we currently know of. Okay, yeah. That's going well. Okay, my lower back is getting tired because I have to like lean forward over the tripod. So I'm gonna read some comments. What am I watching? I am cleaning Tyrannosaurus fossil fragments and just chatting. Hello, Yusef Samra. Thoughts on the Nunavut Carcharodontosaurid? Everything I've been able to dig up from the internet points to it being an internet rumor. I have never even heard of it. If you've got more information on that, I'd love to hear it, but that's completely new to me. What about the Yezo Kraken? Oh, I haven't heard about that either. From Mark Kabuzzi, when the three of you worked on Kawashni Trilogy, has it been challenging to come up with a unique flying hybrid with how relatively few creatures with powered flight there are versus land or sea? I don't know. I mean, Overseer made it look easy. He just used a bunch of birds, pretty much. Birds and pterosaurs, and yeah, and then it was awesome. I loved how that turned out. Zephyr, my goat. So cool. Hi, Vividen. How are you? When will Goliath return to the museum? I hope you'll study him and give us all the information right away. I don't know. I don't know when it's going back. De Palma had it because he owns the fossil. So I think he was doing some kind of study with it or something, probably getting a paper ready. But yeah, I would love to get my hands on it and measure it in person. I'd love for them to do some histo work on it as well. I think that'd be really cool. Oh yeah, the mud's finally coming off this section. This is taking a long time, but we're getting there. We're getting there. I don't know what kind of process this is. I don't even know what type of vert this is. It's so messy. But hopefully the scans will be able to give us a little bit more of a comparative matrix, since we'll be able to manipulate it in 3D space a lot more easily and directly compare it to other fragments that we know about. Nuclear Goji, thoughts on Goliath's femur? It's big. It's a big femur, big Rex femur. Pete didn't seem quite so sure that it was actually as robust as Cope, which I thought was interesting. But it has been measured in person by multiple experts, so it might be a measurement standards thing. You never know. Oh, shoot. That chunk just came off. Dang it. That's okay. Not much I can do about it. Sometimes this happens. I'm far from the most experienced fossil preparator out there. I'm actually not very good at it, but it's what we got, so that's why I'm here. Lab work just was not my thing, I found, when I was at BYU. I love the people that I met there, and I think I learned a lot. One of those things that I learned was that lab work is just not for me. I love field work, though. So fun getting out there and prospecting and finding things for the first time and taking measurements in the field and fighting for that scientific transparency, I think, is one of the most important things that I learned. Okay, let's dry this thing off. The Tarovinator mount was 3D printed, if I remember correctly. That is super cool. Imagine attending a GSA conference where someone was unironically presenting a hypothesis about the possible existence of a gigantic, hyper-intelligent kraken from the Triassic. Yeah, that would have been a hoot. I would have loved to be there in that room. Would cope still be considered fragmentary? Um, Compared to like Sue or Stan, who are like crazy complete, or Victoria, then yes. But it's not nearly as fragmentary as a lot of people think, and it's a lot less fragmentary than a lot of people say that it is. Because I see it floating around. Oh, Cope's just a femur. Cope's just a femur, or a femur and a tibia, femur and a fibula. And sure, it is those things, but there's also lots of skull material. There's postcranial axial material, and that's really, really important for getting us a good indication of overall body size, biomechanical function, the works. Okay, there is still some mud there, but I think I'd need a dental pick to get to it. Okay, let's move this over here. Something cool about fossils is that it's a lot easier to tell their bone structure when they've got water on them. You can see how dark and crisp and clear that is. So that's definitely an advantage. Okay, let's read some more comments after I get some of this mud off my hands. You forgot the king cat survived the Mesozoic and the T-Rex survived the Ice Age. I thought I answered that. I'd say yes to both. I think we can't just say if Cope will stay fragmentary or not, since he is fragmentary for now until we find a T-Rex similar to Cope. And so I think that's part of where some of the misconceptions come from, is that it's just a couple bones when it's actually a lot more complete than we thought. The Triassic Kraken was a GSA abstract at one point. Yes, it was. Hi, Vividen. How are you? Oh, wait, I already read that question. Hello, Vividen. Is Obsidian Dawn available in Europe anywhere other than Amazon? Postage from the US is expensive. Yes, it is available on Ingram Spark, and I have links on videos for that. It's also available through ebook at Kobo, and I'm gonna try to get it at Waterstone, I believe it's called. But if you want international shipping, that might be cheaper than Amazon. And Ingram Spark hardcover is the way to go. That would be like David Peters' ideas on pterosaurs being an SVP abstract. Yep. Is your name going to be on whenever a paper is made for Cope? I certainly hope so. We're just waiting for the scans to be made public because we don't know where it's going to be on display. I'm also now realizing how far behind I am on comments, so I'm going to really try to zoom through these. Why did T-Rex only live to about 30? There's a quote from John Locke, "Life is nasty, brutish, and short," and that pretty much describes T-Rexes. They fought each other constantly. They had extremely dangerous prey. It was just, they lived in a horrifically deadly environment, and so the fact that a lot of them even lived that long is pretty impressive. T-Rex's crash course through a 30-year life, and I really respect that. Yeah, pretty much. Cope completion, I think I already answered that. Vividen, is it true that the T-Rex weighed 10 tons on average? Depends on what you define as average. If you say every T-Rex specimen that we have preserved, I would say no. If you say every skeletally mature T-Rex specimen that we have, then yes. Nanotyrannus killed Cope. You never know. What do you think of latest Cretaceous carcharodontosaurids? I think it's possible. The fossil record has huge gaps. They could be out there. I wouldn't be surprised. Collins et al. Sue's age study is well documented and aligns the best with other Rex growth curves. Perfect. how did you start to like dinosaurs or paleontology? I watched Jurassic Park when I was about 2 years old, and that was it for me. For Milo, but you said femur allometry was unreliable. LOL. Yeah, yeah. Femur allometry is not great. Femur isometry is better, which includes comparing circumference and comparing length. Femoral volume is emerging as a new technique that's probably better than any of them because it's way more holistic and takes into account all of the possible proportions of the bone. Have you played Prehistoric Kingdom? Unfortunately I have not. 20-ton Vessalosaurus devours cope. Absolutely. Is that a real fossil? Yes. Hi, casual watcher here from Bone Druid, the Sovereign of Dawn. Which bone is the worst for to classify the fossil, and what is the expensive tool for studying fossils? Which bone is the worst to classify the fossil? Probably one of like the tiny finger bones or something. I'm not sure what you mean by classify, like phylogenetically or like size, because if you're going by size, then probably some kind of skull fragment would be the worst. Expensive tool for studying fossils. There are lots of expensive tools. Let's go with a CT scanner. So Sue over Cope, then I guess possibly. They're right now they seem to be about the same size. We have heard that the verts that got scanned and are going to go on display were bigger than the biggest in Sue's. So that's something. Femoral volume, I think, is also comparable with Cope possibly edging it out. Okay, looking for more questions. Favorite Belisor answered that. Are you working as a paleontologist? Just curious. Depends on how you define paleontologist. I consider myself like a media paleontologist. I do work with bones. I go on digs. I study things. I release information to the public based on what I study. I don't get paid by a university to work as a paleontologist, but I'm doing similar things independently. I'm an independent researcher. Vividen attending SVP this year, unfortunately not. It was not in the budget. Cheese a dragon already. Yeah, it is. Do you think Chenjosaurus is underrated? Absolutely. I love Chenjosaurus. Where did you first find the Cope fossil? It was actually at the Cope dig site that we went out and visited. Are you excited for Jurassic World Evolution 3? Yeah, probably. I think it looks really fun. I haven't played any of the Jurassic World Evolution games, but that one looks pretty cool. So I might get it, and if I figure out there's a way that I can use it for videos. That's most of my gaming experience, honestly, is just figuring out how I can use it to make videos. Suchomimus Appreciation Day when? Good question. Why is cleaning fossils needed? Like, it makes the research easier? Oh yeah, it sure does. Especially if you're working on trying to identify the type of animal that it is, because sometimes their bone structure is different. And also identifying histology things, like trying to figure out growth rings is not going to work if everything is covered in mud. What are your thoughts on Mark Whitten's illustrations of Tyrannosaurus rex, more specifically, the ones associated with the maximum sized individual of 15 meters? I love them. Mark Whitten's rexes are probably my all-time favorite reconstructions. They're so beautiful. Spino in the splash zone. Yeah, I definitely got some mud on the wall too, so I'm gonna have to clean that up after. At the KT-KPG boundary, an iridium anomaly is consistent with this theory. However, analysis failed to find 244 Pu, a supernova byproduct, thus it couldn't have been a supernova. Yeah, okay. Carnotaurus is maybe the most extra basic Abelisaur, to be fair. Yeah, that's fair. What's your thoughts on large dromaeosaurids like Utahraptor? I absolutely love them. Have you visited the Museum of the Rockies? I haven't, but I really want to. Dude, I think you're on a 10-minute stream delay, Vividen. Yeah, probably. I'm so behind on comments. That's why I'm trying to catch up. Can Spinosaurus survive in the Cenozoic Ocean? No, it gets eaten by Livyton and Megalodon. What do you think about Utahraptor? Is it cool? Yes, extremely cool. That's why the main character in my book is a Utahraptor bonder. Vividen, where are you from? I'm from the United States, Utah. Lots of dinosaurs here. Have you been to Moab Giants? I've driven past it when I was out on a dig. I haven't actually gone inside though. It looked fun. Hot take: Spino was mid. That's a very hot take. From the Special Edwards, hey, I mentioned this before, but Keenan Taylor of Tales of Chimera said it was okay to use the setting and creatures for EcoSwap kind of videos. His Megaraptor in Avatar's Earth Kingdom was a cool vid. That would be really fun, actually. I'd love to use giant Megaraptors for stuff. Hey, Vividen, what is your favorite depiction of T-Rex in media? For me, it's the Primal Carnage T-Rex. I mean, I like Prehistoric Planet, but it's not perfect. I hate the Walking with Dinosaurs Rex, the old one. It's terrible. Horrible model. The new one's fine. I think anatomically it's actually better than the Prehistoric Planet T-Rex. The CGI was just pretty bad. I really liked Dinosaur Revolution with their like skull super edgelord Rex designs. I thought those were actually kind of sick. It's like Skeletor as a theropod. Those are awesome. Probably between that and Prehistoric Planet. What's a hypothetical scenario where a T-Rex could beat a Shantungosaurus? If it ambushes it, if it gets it from behind, if it gets a neck bite in, it'd be over. From KR Dragon 6, I've been binging your stuff lately. Really love it. The orcas in Subnautica video is what drew me in, but I love all the speculative stuff. Oh, that's awesome. I'm so glad. I'll definitely be making more. At this point, I think we understand Spinosaurus considerably better than Tyrannotitan. Honestly, yeah. Tyrannotitan material is really not very good. Shantungosaurus is better than Spino. That's another hot take. What is your favorite depiction of Spinosaurus in media? This is something that I think Walking with Dinosaurs 2 did really well. Their Spinosaurus was incredible. Do you have a museum that you have yet to visit that you hope to go to someday? So many. So many. I've only visited a couple. I've been to the BHI. I've been to the University of Utah. I've been to BYU, St. George Dinosaur Track Farm, which isn't to say that they farm dinosaur tracks, but it was a Johnson Farm dinosaur site, something along those lines. I've been to the Museum of Ancient Life in Lehigh, which is probably my favorite I've ever been to. It's amazing. Although their collections is a little limited. But yeah, that's it. Like, those are all the dinosaur museums I've visited, so I've got a billion more that I need to go to. Shant was a giant. That's why Montosaurs terrify me. Fair. What do you think about Netflix Life on Our Planet documentary? I never finished it. I got like 3.5 episodes in, and it was, I don't know, there wasn't really much story to it, which I think is important for nature documentaries. And they also had some dumb stuff like mammalian cunning. It was not very well researched. Although they did have some great models in it. I loved the Erythrosuchus. I'm glad that was even in a documentary. Sauroniops is a sleeper pick for interesting carcs. That giant frontal and femur shaft section is interesting. It's a great name. I wish we knew more about it. Who's a better successor to Walking with Dinosaurs, Prehistoric Planet or Surviving Earth? That's difficult to say because I don't think Surviving Earth has come out yet. Acrocanthosaurus Appreciation Day is coming up. Yes. Sail-backed model acro in Dempsey's study is more of a ridge-backed acro. He applied the convex hull expansion to the sail, whereas a true sail would be closer to a pure convex hull. Ridge-backed model, I think, is the most likely, though. Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. So I think 7.5 tons for the biggest acro is pretty reasonable. Nico Bolas, the giant Abelisaur win. Is it important to be a super nerd to become a paleontologist, and what things should be known to a person? You don't have to be a super nerd to be a paleontologist, but all of the ones I know are. If you like cool things, you're probably into dinosaurs. I'd name the sauropod Arishem after the Celestial. That would be awesome, actually. I'd actually name mine Scathin the Approver. I counter your Morgoth with my Gil-galad. I really appreciate the attempt there, but Gil-galad, unfortunately, would get stomped. Actually, I think this is 15 to 20 minute delay. Am I that far behind on comments? Sheesh, you guys are keeping me busy. I'm gonna have to be really selective with these questions. If I ever found 120 ton sauropod named Galactus, awesome. Hope you don't mind me, Vividen. Just gonna use this live stream as ASMR while I work on my Sebekid skull project. You're working on Sebekids? That's amazing. I love Sebekis. Are you doing like a reconstruction? Are you cleaning fossils too? That'd be awesome. If you're working on more Sebekid material, let me know. Because holy cow, those are some of my favorite animals of all time. Thoughts on what the heck Seots is? The main theories seem to be Megaraptor or some kind of Allosauride, but I've also seen a few others. I don't know. I've seen the same arguments, and I don't know. Have you had a chance to check out Greg Paul's Ute Titan paper? There's been a lot of discussion about it on the DML. Curious what you think about it. I haven't read the whole thing actually. I need to go through before I bash it too hard. I saw some of the skeletals from it, and man, Greg Paul he loves shrink wrapping like there's no tomorrow. Those Alamosaurs, they don't even have an esophagus. Like they can't swallow, much less breathe. Yes, I'm cleaning fossils. It's Cope, the Tyrannosaurus. One day, if you're being mugged, a rock will fall from the sky and save you. Yeah, that sounds good. What's your opinion on Rex interacting with Alamosaurus? I'm sure it happened at some point. We don't have direct fossil evidence for that that's like really conclusive as far as I know. I've heard that there is North American titanosaur material that has feeding traces from a tyrannosaur, but I haven't been able to verify that. If you were to pick a different theropod to study other than a mega-sized one, which one would you like to research on next? Probably some kind of small Megaraptoran. The more I learn about Megaraptorans, the more I'm like, holy cow, these things are cool. Oh, we got a super chat from Special Edwards. Since Keenan Taylor said it's okay to use this setting for videos, what animal would you put there? I'd put a T-Rex, Indominus, or Rancor. Also, his Therocephalian dragons would make good eco-swap animals themselves. Oh, that's sick. I love Therocephalians. Honestly, I'd probably put it in a video game series. I might take one of his giant speculative evolution Megaraptorans and put it somewhere awesome. Like Monster Hunter, perhaps? I don't know. Oh. Okay, there we go. Is Cope the Manus Spondylus specimen? I think it is. I think it is the same site because when Bucky found Cope, he found the maxilla sticking out of a bluff. He also found a big stack of verts that looked like they'd been there for a long time, all covered in vegetation and algae and moss and stuff. Not algae, just moss. Which describes what we understand Cope may have done when he found the Manus Spondylus verts. He stacked up a bunch to leave them there for later and just took another 100 years. You are a great dino nerd, Zuber, and you are cool. What type of thyreophoran would you like to discover and name? I'd love to name something similar to Scutellosaurus. I would love to find something either like Spicamellis because it's crazy, or Stegoros because it's so unique among thyreophorans. What does he think of the Schleich Moros intrepidus? I haven't seen it. I'll have to look it up. Triassic Kraken. Have you found my grandma yet? Actually, yeah. She says hi. I was kind of hoping that Yellowstone hyperpredator was literally anything else than a meg specimen, like a giant Eugeniodon. Yeah, I was not very happy with how Apexius handled that. I should speak about Trilantosaurus's classification. I want it to be a giant Megaraptoran, or at least some kind of Tyrannosauroid so bad, because it's so cool when it's reconstructed like that. Okay, long story short, the Nunavut Carcharodontosaurus is a rumor from the internet about a giga-sized carc discovered in northern Canada. Yeah, that's the first time I've heard of that. That'd be awesome. De Palma's probably gonna gatekeep that specimen. He always does that for some reason. I hope not. Will there be a second Quashni trilogy? Maybe, if the first episode does better. Are paleontologists paid well? Because I'm planning to graduate for this job. Paleontologists are not paid well, typically. You don't do this for the money. When I was talking to Bacher about this, like, when was that? 11 years ago? He was very clear that it's very rare for paleontologists to make a good living financially off of paleo. You'll have to also like sell books on the side. You have to be you know, basically doing all of these secondary income streams, leveraging your platform as an educator. Megalodon encounter shading, that makes sense. Okay, Tyler Holmes, Nunavut Kark is not real. The rumor was started by a Discord user who said remembered reading about it in a magazine but had no source, and none of the experts supposedly involved knew anything. Okay, sounds like an internet hoax. Classic. Please, cope scans. I will. I'll scan these today and I'll send them to you after the live stream. When will there be a new video about Rex's size? I'd also like a review of the video where the Tyrannosaurus fight. Good question. I'll make a new video as soon as there's an update. I'm also considering a video about how megatheropods in general fought. I think that would go over pretty well. Can mosasaurs survive the Cenozoic? Probably. I'd say so. Question, why is Obsidian Dawn so dark? Not complaining. Muto, the... Oh, about Mito. Is it dark? Is it too dark for you? I'm so sorry. It's definitely violent. Yes, there are multiple ways of scaling off of femurs. Some kind of skull fragment would be the worst. Sour Knives enters the chat. Yeah. Could dinosaurs hybridize? Possibly. Familiar with the Dynamisaurus T-Rex specimen in the NHM in London. Wikipedia states a similar size and Sioux. After seeing a bunch of scans and like behind the scenes measurements of a bunch of Rex specimens, I tend to take Wikipedia's opinion on that subject pretty lightly. I wouldn't consider it very reliable. What is the character in Obsidian Dawn is your favorite? Mine is the Ketz. Can't pronounce the name. Okay, so the Quetzalcoatlus is named Mito. My favorite character in Obsidian Dawn is probably Eatsley, the Utah Raptor. Universal formulas are problematic. That's correct. Is Carnotaurus really the fastest theropod? Because I saw someone say that's a myth. I highly doubt that it's the fastest theropod. We don't even have the lower legs preserved. We don't know how fast it was. Anybody who's saying that they know how fast Carnotaurus was is lying. Or they have secret material. Are there any good dinosaur museums in California? That's a good question. I haven't spent a lot of time in California. They have a lot of good Cenozoic stuff. I know UCMP Berkeley has a good paleo program. I don't know what their museum is like, though. It's going to take another 20 minutes before he gets here. Oh, I hope not. I'm trying to go through these as fast as I can. I was planning on this being like a 45-minute live stream, but you guys are answering so many questions. They're all great questions. Australia is mid, unfortunately, because it's terrible material. Prehistoric Planet Rex is not the best for you. Besides the eyes too visible, it sounds top. It's probably my favorite overall in terms of anatomical accuracy. I do know it's met some criticisms for being a little bit too rotund. 520 millimeter Giga also has some issues based on scans, but I'll wait for the osteology. You ever come to Chicago, hit me up. Oh, I will. Hot take, Walking with Dinosaurs 1999 T-Rex isn't as bad as everyone says it is. That's a very hot take. Seeing the title abstract from Shimada in SVP 2025, rediscovery of the Danish Megalodon vertebral specimen. Oh, so Ragnarok's back. Yellowstone hyperpredator is not a lost specimen anymore. Sick. Yes, theropods are my favorite. And yes, Tom Hiddleston is narrating Prehistoric Planet Season 3. Our scan data suggests 491 millimeters for minimum circumference. This is for the Giga holotype. And 503 millimeters for midshaft, but many people will disagree, citing mold cast shrinkage. Dr. Correa thinks the shrinkage idea makes no sense, though. And Dr. Correa, of course, is the person who described Giga. How well could Garchodontosaurus drive a car? Extremely well. No Sebekid fossils in my possession from Alexander Morrison. Doing an armature-wired base and likely clay-covered sculpt that would be painted and sealed with some sort of resin. Still to decide that. Wow, that's amazing. You should post pictures in the community when you do, because that sounds fantastic. Why do people keep confusing paleontology and archaeology? Because you dig things in both. Probably. People always ask me if I'm like Indiana Jones, and I'm like, yes, but not for the reason that you think. When are more vids about Allosaurus annex coming up? Who knows? I don't know when there's going to be news about that. Hello, Vividen. I hope you're doing well. I'm doing very well. Thank you. Mosasaurs are underrated. I agree. Have you seen the new Dino Survival Horror co-op game Deathground? Oh, I think I heard something about that. I haven't watched the trailer though. It sounds awesome. We should get it and play together. Hey Vividen, I'm sorry if I sound a bit crazy when I say this, but I really love UFOs and aliens and all the sightings, theories, etc. about them. Anyways, do you think aliens caused the KT extinction? I do not. Okay, hot take maker Raptons or vid. That's a crazy hot take. That is the hottest take so far. Okay, I think I caught up. Am I caught up with the comments? I don't know. I can't even tell. But anyway, if I am, thank you all for coming to this wonderful live stream. This is very fun. I am now going to scan these coverts, and hopefully we can find some useful information about them. But before I'm done, I want to brag about my wife for a second, because she found this phalanx that we think is from some kind of oviraptorid. This was also at the Cope site. It was about 200 feet away from Cope in the same horizon. So I think that's pretty awesome. At first we thought it was nano, but looking at it more closely and comparing it to Anzu, we're thinking it's oviraptorid. We're not sure. And yeah, kind of speaking of that, there will be a Nanotyrannus video coming pretty soon, including some of the stuff that I saw at the BHI, because BHI has juvenile Rex material right next to Nanotyrannus material. And that ultimately was what convinced me that Nanotyrannus is valid. I think it's valid. I made a video like 8 years ago talking about how I didn't support that, but evidence has changed and it has convinced me. So I think the video is probably going to be called "Somehow Nanotyrannus Returned," because you want to really capitalize on the memes in this paleontological industry. But yeah, thank you all so much for coming. I'm going to try and figure out how to stop this live because I don't know how my phone works. Oh, did I just clip it on accident? How did I do that? Portugal. Oh, okay. I'm going to stop streaming now. Thank you. Everybody keep attention to the stuff that happens at SVP 2025 because Nanotyrannus is coming back officially. Pretty darn sure. Goodbye.